10 Secrets of Public Speaking You Haven't Heard Before by Michael Carter. Published by Audiobooks Hub. Introduction. Imagine stepping onto a stage where hundreds of eyes are fixed on you. The lights feel hotter than the sun, your hands tremble, and your heartbeat echoes louder than any microphone could amplify. For most people, public speaking ranks among their deepest fears, sometimes even above death itself. Yet we live in a world where your ability to speak clearly, persuasively, and memorably can open doors that nothing else can. Whether you're pitching an idea, leading a meeting, teaching a class, or giving a toast, your voice is your power. The better you wield it, the more influence and opportunity you can create. But let's be honest. Most of the advice about public speaking is the same recycled list. Make eye contact. Use gestures. Practice your speech. You've heard it 100 times before. You may even have tried these tips and still found yourself nervous, flat, or forgettable. That's because the real secrets of unforgettable public speaking aren't the ones most coaches put on posters or in short blog posts. They're deeper, more human, and they come from experience, not cliches. This book exists because I want you to discover those hidden truths, the ones seasoned speakers rely on but rarely explain. Over the past decade, I've watched hundreds of speakers. Some had flawless slides but left their audience bored. Others stumbled over their words but left the room electrified. I began noticing patterns, techniques hidden under the surface, that separated truly magnetic speakers from everyone else. Those patterns became the 10 secrets you'll read about here. These aren't the secrets you'll find in a typical public speaking class. They aren't tricks designed to manipulate your audience. They're skills, mindsets, and subtle habits that build authentic confidence and connection. They're not about performing so much as about being present, creating a moment, and leaving people with a message they'll actually remember. Once you internalize them, you won't just get through your speeches, you'll enjoy them. You'll look forward to them. And you'll start noticing how your new speaking ability changes how others treat you. Doors open, opportunities appear, influence grows. Before we go further, I want you to know something important. These secrets work for everyone. You don't have to be an extrovert, a natural entertainer, or a charismatic personality. You don't even have to be fearless. Fear is normal, even the best speakers feel it. What matters is learning how to channel it into something useful. If you can talk to one friend, you can learn to speak to a room full of strangers. If you can tell a story over dinner, you can hold an audience's attention for 20 minutes. The skills you'll learn here build from what you already do naturally. No acting, no pretending to be someone else. This book is structured in 3 parts. First, this introduction, which you're reading now, is here to reset your expectations and spark your curiosity. Next come the 10 chapters, each revealing one secret you've probably never been told. Each chapter shows you what the secret is, why it works, and how to apply it with examples from real speakers. Finally, there's a conclusion that ties everything together and shows you how to keep growing after you've finished reading. Here's a glimpse of what's ahead. You'll learn why your body language should never be rehearsed but instead grown from your message. You'll find out why telling fewer stories, yes, fewer, can make you more powerful. You'll discover a simple mental trick to calm your nerves that doesn't involve breathing exercises. You'll learn how to make your audience feel like you're speaking only to them, even in a room of 1,000. And you'll see why the most memorable part of your speech may not be what you say at all, but what you don't say. As you read, I encourage you not just to underline ideas but to practice them. Try one secret at your next meeting. Experiment with another at a family gathering. The power of these techniques grows when you use them in real life. By the time you reach the conclusion, you'll not only understand the 10 secrets, you'll have started to embody them. Let me share one more reason this book matters. The ability to speak well is no longer optional. In a world of video calls, podcasts, TED-style talks, and social media, the line between public speaking and everyday communication is dissolving. We're all public speakers now, whether we're presenting to investors or explaining a project to our boss. Those who can speak with clarity, authenticity, and confidence rise faster, not because they're smarter, but because they can make their ideas heard. Your voice is your leverage. It's time to sharpen it. I also want you to feel reassured. You're not alone in your nervousness. Almost everyone who has ever stood up to speak has felt what you feel. The difference between those who excel and those who struggle isn't the absence of fear. It's learning how to work with it. This book will show you how. Finally, a confession. The secrets in this book aren't magic bullets. They're not about faking confidence or memorizing a formula. They're about understanding how humans connect, how minds pay attention, and how emotions move people to action. They're about turning your speech into an experience. And once you've experienced that shift, once you've seen an audience lean in, laugh, or tear up, you'll never go back to the old way of speaking. So take a breath. Clear your mind of the old, tired tips you've heard before. Over the next chapters, we'll go deeper. We'll uncover the hidden techniques that make speaking a pleasure rather than a performance. And you'll walk away not just a better speaker, but a more confident, more compelling version of yourself. Secret number 1. Speak from the inside out, not the outside in. Most public speaking advice starts with what the audience sees. Stand up straight, project your voice, use gestures, make eye contact. It's not bad advice, but it's backwards. When you focus on how you look before you've decided what you mean, you end up feeling stiff, self-conscious, and disconnected. The most compelling speakers don't begin with outward technique. They begin inwardly, with a felt sense of what they want to say and why it matters. Everything else grows naturally out of that. That is the first hidden secret of great public speaking. Speak from the inside out. Think of a time you were excitedly telling a story to a close friend. You didn't plan your hand movements or rehearse your eye contact. You just had a vivid sense of the story and your enthusiasm carried it. Your tone, pace, and gestures arose spontaneously. Now contrast that with a time you practiced a presentation and tried to remember everything you'd rehearsed. Chances are you sounded flatter, your movements felt forced, and you were more nervous. The difference is not talent, it's orientation. One is outside in, how do I look? What am I doing with my hands? The other is inside out, what am I saying? Why do I care? Here's how to start shifting to inside-out speaking. First, anchor yourself in your core message. Before you touch your slides, write down your opening, or think about your outfit, ask, what is the one thing I want this audience to feel or do when I'm finished? Not 5 things, not a laundry list, just one. Write it in a single sentence. This is not a slogan, it's your personal compass. When you have that compass, every word you say can point toward it. Without it, you're like a ship without a rudder. Lots of motion, little direction. Second, connect emotionally to your material. This doesn't mean you have to cry on stage or tell a sob story. It means finding the spark that makes you care about what you're saying. If you're explaining data, why does it matter to you? If you're proposing a change, what personal experience makes you believe in it? Audiences don't just absorb information, they catch your energy. If you're bored, they'll be bored. If you're genuinely interested, they'll lean in. This is why rehearsing the moves of a speech rarely works, because moves without meaning feel hollow. Third, let your body follow your intention. Once you're clear about your message and emotionally connected to it, your body language will naturally start to express it. You won't have to remember to gesture, your hands will rise when they need to. You won't have to remember to pause, your words will find their rhythm. Of course, you can refine and polish these expressions later, but the starting point is always the inner state. Actors call this playing the action, not showing the emotion. Great speakers do the same. They focus on what they're trying to do to the audience, inspire, warn, reassure, and their tone and posture emerge from that. Here's an example. A client of mine, let's call her Anna, once had to present a high-stakes proposal to senior executives. She rehearsed for days, memorized every slide, and practiced her gestures. But when the moment came, she froze. Her delivery was wooden, her voice shook, and she left the room feeling defeated. For her next talk, we did something different. Before touching her slides, we spent an hour talking about why she cared about the proposal. We boiled it down to one sentence. I want them to see that this project will make their team's lives easier. We built the talk around that intention. On the day of the presentation, she felt calmer. She forgot some lines, but she spoke from conviction, and the executives said yes. She didn't look perfect, but she was persuasive, because she was speaking from the inside out. You can practice this shift in everyday life. The next time you're preparing to speak, even if it's just in a meeting, take 30 seconds to ask yourself, what's my core message? Why do I care? Feel it for a moment. Then speak. Notice how your voice and body start to align. Over time, this becomes automatic. Another tip, before you go on stage, instead of running through your lines in your head, close your eyes and picture the audience. Imagine one person you truly want to help or move. Think about the benefit you're bringing them. This centers you in purpose rather than performance. When your focus is on giving rather than proving, your nerves start to quiet and your authenticity comes forward. Audiences can feel this. They sense when you're there to deliver something valuable versus when you're there to impress. This secret also changes how you rehearse. Instead of memorizing your talk word for word, rehearse the path of your talk. The key points, the emotional beats, the transitions. Speak it out loud in different words each time, staying anchored in your one-sentence compass. This trains you to be flexible and present, not scripted and brittle. You'll be able to adjust on the fly, respond to the room, and still stay on track. Speaking from the inside out is not an excuse to be sloppy. You still need structure, clarity, and preparation, but it shifts the order of operations. First comes purpose, then message, then delivery. When you do it this way, you become more natural, not less. People describe inside-out speakers as authentic, confident, and engaging, even if they're introverts. The paradox is that by thinking less about performance, you end up performing better. Finally, there's a deeper benefit to this secret. It doesn't just make your speeches better, it makes you better. Preparing your talks this way forces you to clarify your own thinking. You have to know what matters to you, what you want others to do, what change you're trying to spark. You stop hiding behind slides and bullet points. You stand in your own conviction. That inner clarity is contagious. It can spill over into how you lead, negotiate, and even have everyday conversations. In a noisy world, a person who speaks from the inside out cuts through the clutter. So, as you move into the next secrets, keep this one in mind. Every technique you learn about openings, storytelling, pacing, visuals will work twice as well if it's rooted in an inner sense of purpose. Without that, even the slickest techniques feel hollow. With it, even imperfect delivery can be powerful. This is the hidden foundation of all great speaking, and it's the place where we begin. Secret number 2, craft the opening moment, not just the opening line. Most speakers spend hours polishing their first sentence. They want a clever joke, a dramatic quote, or a surprising statistic. But what really grabs an audience isn't a string of words. It's the moment they first encounter you. The first 30 seconds of a speech set the tone for everything that follows. People don't just hear your opening, they feel it. The second hidden secret of great public speaking is to design that opening moment. The mood, the pause, the eye contact, the energy, before you worry about your first line. Think about concerts. The band doesn't usually just walk on stage and start playing. The lights change, a sound cue plays, the crowd hushes, and then the first note strikes. That build-up signals, something is starting, pay attention. You can do the same thing in a speech, even without music or lights. You can shape the space, your stance, your silence, and your first look at the audience so that by the time you speak, they're already leaning forward. Why does this matter so much? Because audiences form impressions in seconds. Research on thin slicing shows that people judge your confidence, credibility, and warmth almost instantly. Once that impression forms, it colors how they interpret everything else you say. If you start rushed, apologetic, or uncertain, they'll subconsciously hear your words as less convincing. But if you start calm, purposeful, and engaged, they'll listen with trust, even if you stumble later. Here's how to craft that opening moment. First, own the stage, literally. When you walk up, don't rush. Don't fidget with your notes or adjust the microphone. Walk to your spot, plant your feet shoulder-width apart, and take a breath. This does two things at once. It grounds you and signals to the audience that you're ready. That small pause before you speak isn't awkward, it's powerful. It creates a hush. It says, "We're about to begin." Second, make eye contact before you speak. Most speakers look down until they're ready to start, then look up and blurt out their opening line. Flip that. Stand still, find one or two faces in the audience, and just look at them for a beat. Smile if it feels natural. This is a subtle but potent cue. It turns you from a talking head into a human being who's connecting. People can feel it, and it pulls them toward you. Third, start with an experience, not a gimmick. That doesn't mean you have to do something outrageous. It means think about what you want your audience to feel right away: curiosity, concern, excitement, and choose a start that evokes that. Sometimes it's a story, sometimes a question, sometimes a vivid image. But the delivery matters as much as the content. For example, instead of launching into "Good morning, my name is," you might pause, look out, and say slowly, "Imagine waking up tomorrow and finding your business gone." That moment of imagining, combined with your pause and gaze, creates a hook far stronger than a flashy quote would. Here's a story. A speaker I coached, let's call him Daniel, was giving a talk about cybersecurity. His first draft opened with a statistic about data breaches. It was accurate, but it felt flat. We worked on the moment instead. When he stepped on stage, he paused, held up his smartphone, and silently waited until everyone noticed. Then he said, "Right now, someone could be inside this phone, and yours, without you knowing." The room went silent. He hadn't changed his entire speech, just the opening moment. The rest of his talk landed better because he'd captured their attention and framed himself as credible from the start. Another tip: breathe out before you begin. Most people unconsciously hold their breath when they walk up to speak. This raises your tension and tightens your voice. As you reach your spot, exhale slowly, plant your feet, and then inhale as you look at the audience. This lowers your heart rate and deepens your voice. That one small shift can make you sound twice as confident before you say a word. You can also shape the environment when possible. If you're presenting in a meeting room, close the door to reduce distractions. If you're using slides, consider starting with a black screen so that people look at you first. If you're at a podium, step slightly to one side to create a more conversational stance. These subtle choices tell the audience, this moment matters. When you practice, don't just rehearse your first line, rehearse the walk-up. Start from sitting down or off stage, walk to your spot, pause, breathe, look up, and then speak. Do it until it feels natural. You're training your body to carry confidence into those first seconds instead of letting adrenaline run wild. Many great speakers say their whole performance clicks once they master that opening moment. After that, they're in the zone. This secret also changes how you think about mistakes. If you nail the opening moment, you've built goodwill. The audience is on your side. A stumble later won't derail you as much because they've already decided you're worth listening to. Conversely, if you start weak, even a perfect middle section can struggle to recover. First impressions are that powerful. Finally, think of the opening moment as a gift. It's not about theatrics or impressing people, it's about inviting them in. You're signaling respect. I've prepared something meaningful, and I value your time. When they feel that, they relax and listen. You can see it in their posture. The phones go down, the eyes lift, the room becomes quiet. That's when you know you've done it right. When you combine secret number 1, speaking from the inside out, with secret number 2, crafting the opening moment, you get a potent start. You're not just launching into words, you're beginning a shared experience. You're centered in your purpose, grounded in your body, and intentionally shaping those first seconds. Everything else becomes easier because the audience is already with you. So before your next talk, stop worrying about the perfect first sentence. Ask yourself instead, what do I want my audience to feel in the first 30 seconds? How can I shape the moment so they're leaning in before I speak? Then design that moment, your walk, your pause, your gaze, your breath, so it happens. That's how great speakers start strong, even without a script. Secret number 4, tell fewer stories, but tell them better. If you've been to any public speaking workshop, you've probably heard, tell stories. Stories, we're told, are how humans connect, how we remember information, how we feel emotion. That's true, but the advice has been overused and misunderstood. Too many speakers cram 3, 4, even 5 little stories into a short talk, thinking more is better. The result is a jumble of anecdotes that never land. The hidden secret is not to tell more stories, but to tell fewer stories, and to tell them so well that they become unforgettable. Think about your favorite movies. They don't rush you through 10 plot lines in 20 minutes. They pick one story and develop it. The same applies to speaking. A single vivid, well-chosen story can make your entire point. Listeners will carry that image away long after your charts and bullet points have faded. Why do too many stories hurt? Because each one requires your audience to shift gears. New characters, new settings, new emotions. They're attention fractures. Instead of deepening the connection, you dilute it. But when you choose 1 or 2 strong stories and give them room to breathe, you create immersion. People stop listening and start seeing. They imagine the scene. They put themselves inside it. That's where persuasion lives. Here's how to start doing it. Pick a story that embodies your message, not just illustrates it. Instead of asking, "What story can I tack on here?" ask, "What story, if I told it well, would be my point?" If you're speaking about resilience, maybe it's the one moment you almost gave up. If you're talking about innovation, maybe it's the moment you saw something fail spectacularly. The story should be the living proof of your idea. Slow down. Once you've picked your story, resist the urge to rush through it. Give it shape, a beginning, the setup, a middle, the tension or obstacle, and an end, the resolution. You don't need movie-length detail, but you do need enough texture for people to picture it. "I was late for work" is bland. It was 7:58, the train doors were closing, and I was sprinting across the platform with one shoe untied, pulls people in. Use sensory detail sparingly but strategically. Mention 1 or 2 concrete elements: the smell of the room, the color of the folder, the sound of the audience gasping, and people's minds fill in the rest. Too much detail bogs the story down. Just enough ignites imagination. Make yourself human. Audiences don't connect to superheroes, they connect to humans. If you're in the story, don't make yourself flawless. Share your confusion, your nerves, your mistakes. Vulnerability builds trust. It tells listeners, "I'm like you." That's when they lean in. Here's an example. A manager I worked with, Sophia, had to give a talk on risk management. Her first draft included 3 different case studies. Each one was interesting but too quick to resonate. We picked the strongest case, a time her team's plan almost collapsed, and told it fully. She described the moment she got the phone call, the sinking feeling in her stomach, the tense meeting where they improvised a solution. By the time she revealed the outcome, the audience was holding its breath. When she later polled them, almost everyone remembered that one story and could repeat her key lesson. The other 2? No one missed them. Another key: tie the story back to the audience. Don't just tell it and move on. After the resolution, step out of the narrative and connect the dots. Here's why this matters to you. Or think about your own situation. This turns your story from entertainment into relevance. Without that bridge, even a great story can feel like a digression. You can also experiment with stories that aren't about you. If you're uncomfortable sharing personal details, borrow stories from history, from clients, from your field. The same rules apply: fewer, deeper, better. One powerful example of someone else's struggle or success can carry an entire talk if you make it vivid. Practice telling your chosen story out loud multiple ways. Don't memorize every word. Instead, memorize the path, the setup, the key turning point, the resolution, the takeaway. Each time you tell it, notice what makes people's eyes widen or smile. Refine those moments. Drop what doesn't land. Over time, your story becomes a living thing, flexible but strong. You might worry, but won't fewer stories make my talk boring? No, because you're replacing quantity with depth. You're giving the audience a narrative they can feel rather than a list of anecdotes they'll forget. One well-told story is like a spine. You can hang your data, your arguments, your call to action on it, and it all holds together. There's another benefit. Telling fewer stories simplifies your preparation. Instead of scrambling for multiple anecdotes, you can focus your energy on making one shine. That frees up mental bandwidth to practice your delivery, refine your slides, and connect with your audience. The talk feels cleaner, calmer, and more confident, for you and for them. Here's a simple exercise to internalize this secret. Take a presentation you've already given. Highlight every story or anecdote. Ask yourself, if I had to cut all but one, which would I keep? Then rebuild the talk around that single story. Add a stronger setup, more vivid detail, and a clear tie-back to your point. Notice how much more impact you have when you combine this secret with the previous ones. Speaking from the inside out, crafting your opening moment, using silence, you start to develop a style that feels deliberate and magnetic. You're not just throwing content at your audience, you're guiding them through an experience. They leave not just informed but transformed. The paradox of public speaking is that restraint often creates power. Fewer slides, fewer bullet points, fewer stories, but each chosen with care and delivered with presence, can do more than a crowded, frantic talk ever could. This is especially true with stories. A single memorable narrative can follow your audience for years. They'll tell it to others. They'll link it to your name. That's influence. So the next time you're tempted to sprinkle in just one more anecdote, stop. Ask yourself, have I chosen the one story that embodies my message? Am I giving it the space it deserves? If the answer is yes, then go deep. Live inside the story. Let your listeners live there with you. And watch how much stronger your message becomes. Secret number 5. The power of the pause. Most beginners think great public speakers never stop talking. In reality, one of the most powerful tools you can use on stage is silence. A well-timed pause can hold an audience's attention far better than a stream of uninterrupted words. Pausing doesn't mean forgetting your lines or losing your place. It's a deliberate choice to create space, emphasis, and anticipation. When you pause, you give your audience time to process what you've said. Think about how a powerful movie scene feels when the soundtrack suddenly drops away. That moment of quiet makes the next line or action hit even harder. The same principle applies to your speech. A few seconds of silence can make your words seem more profound and give listeners room to react emotionally. Pauses also work wonders for your own nerves. Instead of filling every second with sound, you can breathe, gather your thoughts, and recenter yourself. This gives you an air of composure and control. Audiences don't perceive silence as weakness, they interpret it as confidence. The trick is to plan your pauses, especially before and after key points. For example, if you've just delivered a striking fact or story, stop. Let the room absorb it. Watch the faces of your listeners. You'll see them lean in slightly. That's the effect you want. You can also use a pause to reset energy. When you sense the crowd's attention drifting, slow down and go quiet for a beat. Paradoxically, silence pulls people back in. It creates curiosity. What's coming next? It's an age-old technique of skilled storytellers, preachers, and politicians alike. To practice, mark your script or outline with small slashes where you'll stop. Say your line aloud, then close your mouth and count silently, 1, 2. It feels longer to you than to your audience, but that's normal. Over time, you'll grow comfortable with silence and start to use it naturally. Mastering the pause transforms a decent speech into a powerful experience. Instead of sounding rushed or desperate to finish, you'll project calm authority. your message will land more deeply, and your audience will remember not just what you said but how you made them feel in those quiet, suspenseful moments. Secret number 6. Story hooks nobody expects. Audiences think they know what's coming when someone begins with, "Let me tell you a story," but the most captivating speakers don't start with obvious stories. They use unexpected hooks, tiny, vivid narratives that take the listener off guard and pull them in instantly. This is different from just telling a story. It's about framing it in a way that jolts attention awake. Imagine opening a talk on financial planning not with, "I used to struggle with money," but with, "3 years ago, I was standing barefoot in a stranger's kitchen at midnight, counting coins." Your audience's brain flips a switch. Wait, what? They lean forward, eager to know how that connects to your topic. That small twist turns a generic story into a hook. These hooks don't have to be dramatic or fabricated. They just need to begin at an unexpected moment. Start in the middle of the action, or describe a tiny, specific detail that paints a scene. Skip the preamble and place your listener right where the tension or curiosity lives. This breaks the invisible barrier between speaker and audience, making them co-explorers rather than passive recipients. Another advantage of a story hook is emotional engagement. Facts and arguments appeal to logic, but stories create pictures. When you give someone a picture to hold, your point lingers long after your speech ends. The more unusual or personal the story feels, the more it sticks. Think of it as a Trojan horse, your key message hidden inside an intriguing narrative. Practice by rewriting the start of your anecdotes. Instead of saying, "I want to talk about perseverance," start with, "I almost quit on the side of a freezing road in November, but something changed." Work backward from the moment of impact, then tie it into your theme. This technique works whether you're speaking at a business conference, a wedding toast, or a classroom. Audiences today are used to endless streams of content, so you need a spark to pierce their mental noise. Unexpected story hooks are that spark. They don't just entertain, they signal that you're a speaker worth listening to, one who understands that a speech isn't a lecture but a journey. When you master this, people will not only stay with you, they'll retell your stories later, spreading your message far beyond the room. Secret number 7. Mastering micro-expressions. Most people think public speaking is all about what you say, but much of your credibility and influence comes from the tiny signals on your face that you're barely aware of. These micro-expressions, fleeting flashes of emotion lasting less than a second, are read unconsciously by your audience. They can make you seem authentic and trustworthy, or nervous and fake. A subtle tightening around the mouth, a flash of raised eyebrows, the way your eyes dart for a split second. These things register in your listeners' brains even if they can't name them. That's why someone can be saying all the right words yet leave an audience feeling uneasy. Micro-expressions reveal what's really happening inside you. The good news is you don't have to be perfect, you just need to be congruent. When your facial signals align with your words, you project sincerity. When they clash, people pick up the dissonance. For example, saying, "I'm excited to be here," while your eyes look tired and your mouth barely moves tells a different story than your words. To improve, start by recording yourself during practice. Watch in slow motion. Notice where your face leaks anxiety or doubt. You might catch a nervous smile you didn't realize you were giving, or a micro-frown when you transition topics. Becoming aware of these habits allows you to adjust them consciously. Another trick is to ground yourself emotionally before you walk on stage. Instead of pasting on a smile, think about something genuinely positive or meaningful related to your talk. When you feel authentic excitement or empathy, your micro-expressions naturally shift to match. The audience senses it instantly and relaxes into your message. You can also use intentional micro-expressions as subtle punctuation. A raised brow to emphasize a key point. A warm half-smile as you transition into a personal story. A brief, sincere look of concern before sharing a statistic about a serious problem. These tiny cues act like non-verbal italics, guiding your listener's emotional journey. Speakers who master microexpressions often seem magnetic without anyone being able to explain why. It's not a trick, it's alignment between inner state and outward signal. When you project that level of congruence, you stop being just a person giving a talk and start becoming a leader your audience wants to follow. Secret number 8. Reading the room in real time. Great public speaking isn't only about delivering a rehearsed message, it's about sensing and adapting to your audience in the moment. Most speakers focus inward, on their slides, their notes, or their nerves, and miss the living feedback happening right in front of them. Reading the room is the hidden skill that makes a speaker feel almost telepathic. When you step on stage, your audience immediately begins sending you signals. Are their eyes bright or dull? Are heads tilted forward or leaning back? Are they still, smiling, whispering, or checking their phones? Each of these is a cue. It tells you whether they're engaged, confused, or drifting away. A skilled speaker notices and adjusts on the fly. This isn't about pandering, it's about connection. If you see furrowed brows, you might slow down and clarify. If you sense energy dipping, you might insert a question, a brief story, or even change your pace to pull them back. When the room laughs or gasps at something you didn't expect, acknowledge it. These small, spontaneous reactions make your talk feel alive rather than scripted. A simple habit to develop is scanning different sections of the room, not just the front row or the center. Look at the edges, the back, the middle. You'll pick up micro patterns. A cluster of people nodding here, a group looking puzzled there. Adjusting to these cues is like surfing a wave. You don't control the ocean, but you can ride it skillfully. Also pay attention to the energy you're giving off. Your voice, body language, and pacing either amplify or dampen the mood. Sometimes all it takes is stepping forward, pausing, and lowering your voice to regain attention. Other times it's about lightening the tone or throwing in a quick interaction. Treat the audience as a living partner rather than a static crowd. Practicing this skill starts small. In everyday conversations, notice how people react to your words. Do they lean in or pull back? Do their expressions change? Over time, you'll train your awareness so that on stage, reading the room feels natural. It's like having a sixth sense. Speakers who read the room in real time don't just talk at people, they create a shared experience. The audience feels seen and understood, and your message lands with far more power because it's tuned to the actual atmosphere of the moment, not just your rehearsal notes. Secret number 9, voice modulation magic. Most speakers focus so much on what they're going to say that they completely overlook how they're going to say it. Yet your voice, its pitch, pace, and power, is one of the strongest tools you have for holding attention. Flat, monotonous delivery can make even the most brilliant ideas sound dull. A well-modulated voice, on the other hand, can make simple ideas feel electrifying. Think of your voice like a musical instrument. If you play every note at the same volume and rhythm, the song becomes background noise. But with rises and falls, crescendos and pauses, you create drama. Your audience doesn't just hear your words, they feel them. That feeling is what makes your message stick. There are 3 key levers you can play with. Pitch, going slightly higher when asking a question or expressing excitement, slightly lower when stating something important or serious. Pace, slowing down for emphasis or emotional weight, speeding up briefly to build urgency or excitement. Power, volume, lowering your voice to draw people in, raising it briefly to signal a major point. When you blend these elements intentionally, your voice becomes a dynamic instrument. You can highlight crucial facts, signal transitions, or make your audience lean forward in anticipation. Even a subtle shift, dropping your tone just before revealing a key point, creates suspense and impact. Practicing voice modulation isn't complicated. Record yourself reading a paragraph aloud, first in a flat tone, then with deliberate changes in pitch, pace, and volume. Listen to the difference. Do the same with a section of your speech. It will feel exaggerated at first, but on stage it reads as vibrant and engaging, not overdone. Another secret is matching your vocal energy to your content. If you're telling an intense story, let your voice tighten and your pace quicken. If you're sharing something inspiring, let your tone open and slow. This alignment between message and sound creates authenticity and emotional resonance. When you master voice modulation, you'll notice people stop looking at their phones and start looking at you. They may not even know why. They just sense you're interesting. And that, in the age of constant distraction, is a superpower every speaker needs. Secret number 10, make the audience the star. Most speakers think the stage is all about them, about delivering their ideas perfectly, showcasing their knowledge, or impressing the crowd. But the final hidden secret of public speaking flips that thinking completely, make the audience the star. The more your listeners feel involved, acknowledged, and connected, the more memorable and persuasive your presentation becomes. This doesn't mean you lose authority. Quite the opposite. When you skillfully draw people in, you create a sense of shared experience. You're no longer lecturing at them, you're guiding them, inviting them, and letting them discover your key points themselves. People remember what they actively participate in far better than what they passively hear. One way to do this is through questions, rhetorical or interactive. Even a single well-timed question makes people pause, think, and become mentally present. For instance, instead of saying, "Here's why goal setting is important," ask, "When was the last time you set a goal that truly excited you?" That tiny shift turns the audience from spectators into participants. Another method is through recognition. Look for opportunities to connect with individuals or groups. Notice reactions, nods, or expressions. Respond subtly, "I see some of you smiling. You've been there too, right?" This makes people feel seen, and the collective energy of the room rises. It also strengthens trust. You're not just speaking at them, you're speaking with them. Stories are especially powerful when they reflect the audience's experiences. Instead of only sharing your own narrative, frame stories in a way that listeners can imagine themselves inside the scenario. When people visualize themselves in your examples, your points become personally relevant. They carry the lesson into their own lives without needing you to hammer it in. Physical engagement works too. Simple gestures like inviting a show of hands, asking a volunteer to share a thought, or having the room respond in unison, "Yes, I agree," makes the audience feel embedded in your talk. Even small interactions increase attention and retention. People leave feeling like they contributed rather than just consumed. Finally, tone and language matter. Use inclusive words, "we," "us," "together." Avoid jargon or overly complex phrasing that alienates listeners. Speak in a way that honors their intelligence and perspective. When the audience feels respected, they lean in. When they feel lectured at, they tune out. Speakers who make the audience the star also harness energy better. The room's energy feeds the speaker, and the speaker feeds it back. It becomes a feedback loop. Instead of draining yourself trying to perform, you draw strength from the collective engagement. That's why some of the most memorable speeches, whether in boardrooms, classrooms, or stadiums, feel alive, interactive, and almost improvised, even if carefully planned. The paradox is simple. The better you focus on the audience, the stronger your presence becomes. You step off the pedestal and walk among them emotionally, intellectually, and sometimes physically. And in that shared space, influence happens naturally. People leave not just informed but energized, inspired, and connected to your message. Master this final secret, and your speaking becomes less about you and more about the people you're addressing. The real power lies not in what you say, but in how you make others feel, think, and remember. Conclusion: your transformation starts now. By now, you've discovered 10 secrets that most speakers never learn. These aren't gimmicks, tricks, or empty tips. They are principles rooted in human psychology, storytelling, and the subtle art of connection. They work because they shift the focus from you, your nerves, your slides, your scripts, to the experience of your audience. And when the audience matters more than the speaker, magic happens. You've learned to start from the inside out, to craft the opening moments so people lean in before you say a word, to use silence as a tool, and to tell fewer but more powerful stories. You've discovered the impact of unexpected hooks, the subtle influence of microexpressions, the importance of reading the room in real time, and the way voice modulation can make your words dance. Finally, you've learned the ultimate secret: make the audience the star. These secrets are powerful not because they're complicated, but because they are subtle. They require awareness, intention, and practice. Public speaking is often presented as a test of talent, but the truth is, it's a skill you can cultivate. Every pause you take, every story you tell with care, every moment you notice your audience, builds that skill. Step by step, talk by talk, you become not just a speaker, but a leader in any room. Remember, transformation doesn't happen overnight. Don't try to implement all 10 secrets at once. Start with one, master it, and then layer in the next. Feel the difference in your confidence, notice how people respond, and refine as you go. Your goal isn't perfection, it's connection, clarity, and presence. Imagine yourself a year from now. You walk into a room and instead of nerves, you feel focus. Instead of fumbling, you pause, engage, and command attention effortlessly. Your words land. Your stories resonate. Your audience is with you, not just listening, but participating, thinking, feeling, remembering. That is the result of these secrets applied with care. Public speaking is no longer something to fear. It's an opportunity, a stage not just for your ideas, but for shared experiences, for influence, and for change. The room doesn't belong to you, it belongs to everyone in it. And when you step onto that stage prepared with these 10 secrets, you guide them, inspire them, and leave a mark that lasts far longer than the minutes you speak. The journey doesn't end here. Each time you speak, each small moment you pause, each story you tell with intention, you reinforce these principles. You build presence, authenticity, and power. You become the kind of speaker people remember, and more importantly, the kind of person who can inspire, persuade, and lead in any setting. Now it's your turn. Step forward. Breathe. Tell your story. Let the audience shine. You have the secrets. The only thing left is to speak, and in doing so, transform every room you enter.